Welcome to the Miami Jewish Film Festival, the world's largest festival of its kind. We want to thank all of our members, sponsors, community partners, all of you film lovers, and especially our presenting sponsors, the Center for the Advancement of Jewish Education and the Greater Miami Jewish Federation for their continued support throughout all these years. My name is Mark Baranek. I'm the Director of Congregational Engagement at Temple Beth Shalom in Miami Beach. And I'm extremely excited, not only excited, but extremely excited to be moderating a virtual conversation with director Laurent Nègre from the movie A Forgotten Man, which is premiering at this year's festival. Thank you all for joining us. Laurent, it's very nice to meet you virtually. As I said before, you're very clear in the picture. You look great. And I want to tell you that I watched your film over the weekend, and I found it fascinating. And I just want to, as an initial question and to begin our conversation, tell us how the film got to be made. What was the background of it? How did you come to make this film?
I've been looking for a long time for the right angle to talk about and make a film about the Second World War and the ambiguous position of Switzerland during that period in time. And I kind of discovered a play by a Swiss author, Thomas Hürlimann, about 10 years ago. In that play, the main character is a diplomat, the Swiss ambassador to Germany during Second World War. And although the play was interesting, what I really focused on was the character. And I started my own research about the real figure, not the character in the play, but the real ambassador. And then I started to write my own screenplay, which is loosely based on the play. And that's the way it began, really. But it took a long time to make. It was very hard to make. It was not a very, let's say, desirable film for the Swiss authorities. As you know, in Europe, we rely a lot on public funding to make films. It's not like in the States. And we saw and experienced a lot of rejections regarding the subject because Switzerland is not famous for being very transparent about how it interacted with other countries during this period. So it was a long journey to make the movie, and I'm very happy to show it now in the Jewish Film Festival in Miami.
Wonderful, Laurent. Is this your first film that you've made, or have you made others?
It's my fourth feature film. I tried not to make the same film each time. I kind of explore different universes. But this story, I have been waiting to make it for a long time.
Wonderful. And was the funding, so as you said, the funding was government funding. You don't get private funding for a film like this?
You always try to combine public funding with private funding. In that case, we had not 1 cent from the authorities, so we had to rely on private money.
Wonderful. Tell me, where was the film shot? Where did you film it?
It was all shot in a manor house and exteriors very close to Geneva, about 30 minutes from Geneva. And we have also scenes in the capital city in Bern.
And tell me, how long did it take to shoot the film?
It's a very low budget movie, and we only had 18 days to shoot it. So it was very a bit like guerrilla filmmaking, I would say. It was very short time.
But I do want to tell you, I found the cinematography, I found the filming, I found it very interesting, including the fact that I'd like to ask, why did you shoot the film in black and white?
There are several different answers. The most common one is I like black and white as a convention with the spectator, with the viewers, because it brings you automatically in an atmosphere of the past. But what I really liked also to experiment was my main character, the ambassador, is a guy who's very ambiguous, and he's not black, he's not white. He's like evolving in a grayscale in terms of emotions, in terms of behavior. And I think black and white was very, very efficient to show that.
You know, but if I'm not wrong, and I sort of noticed this, everything was black and white until the last picture of the Swiss flag flying at the end. And the flag wasn't a new one, it was a tattered one. You know, it had some holes in it, obviously done on purpose. Is that correct? You changed that last piece to color.
Absolutely. I wanted to that's the very last shot of the film, and the flag that the father of the main character is raising at the end is the flag that the ambassador brought back from Berlin. That's why it's kind of wrecked and ragged, etc. And it's in color because I also wanted to convey the idea that Switzerland is still living today with all these memories, and it was kind of a desire to wake up the viewer, the audience at the very end with that kind of question.
It was very noticeable, that last shift to color of the flag. And speaking of the father, to me, there were two characters that stood out. You know, obviously there's a main character of the ambassador, but I thought the father was, was terrific in his role. Tell me about him, and why did you feel it was important to have a character like the father who was so adamant about the Army's role during the war?
Well, I wanted to mix history matters and family matters, because I think it's very efficient to convey a generational conflict in a story. And if you notice, you have like 3 generations in the movie. You have the old army man, the grandfather, the father of the ambassador. You have the ambassador, and you have this young man who's questioning the ambassador about his role during his mission in Berlin. And in a way, the father is like the yesterday's Switzerland. The ambassador is like the present in the film, and the young man is like the future of the country. So confronting them all the time during the film was also a way for me to show the contrast, to show the complexity of the perception of the role of the country, and where it comes from, where it is at the moment when we follow the story, and where we'd like it to be in the future. And that's that last thing is incarnated by the character of Nicolas.
Right. And linking to the past, the character that I found most fascinating was the older maid, the older woman that worked in the house, with the family for years, so many years, that she in fact helped raise the ambassador, who was probably now in his 60s or early, whatever he is, probably his 60s at this point, but she'd been with the family for so long. And that last shot of her walking away from the house the last time, you see an older, sad, forlorn woman looking back, sort of. Explain her character a little bit.
Well, I guess, in this kind of very bourgeois family, you always find this kind of gouvernante. I don't know how to translate that in English, but this woman, she's like the soul of the house. She's also like a metaphor of a balance and an equilibrium that has been lost. And during the story, everybody leaves the house and leaves him alone. And when she leaves, she's the last person to go away. And that's very symbolic for me also to imagine that even the tradition, even that character that is full of forgiveness, even her, she leaves at that stage. It's like maybe 10 minutes before the end. For me, it was a strong move to have her go away.
The maid, we're talking about the maid.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also the wife, the wife who had been so supportive. And to me, she was a little naive. I mean, she had really no idea what her husband had been doing, and he seemed to have been away in Berlin for an extended period. I mean, so much so that that one question where they're lying in bed and she goes, "Did you have other women? Were there
Mhm.
other women in Germany?" And
I like to stress on the fact that again, it's the manners in this milieu. This bourgeoisie is full of hypocrisy, and you sometimes you fight stronger for appearances than for the facts or for the truth. And it's really this kind of couple where appearances are more important than the truth between them, because the truth is lost a bit between them. They still want to build the perfect family. It's like they live under a sword of Damocles, you know, and they expect the guillotine to fall down at any moment, but still they have to maintain the, how do you say, yeah, the posture is more important than the position.
right, you know, that first one of the first scenes when he comes back, and you know, there's that picnic overlooking, you know, that panoramic view, and the whole family's there, and the kids are playing, and you know, eventually it comes to that scene where he's with his wife's cousin, and you know, he's talking to him about the truth, and then the ambassador says, "Listen, you know, you got to be very rich with all of this as well, so don't forget that." So that relationship was interesting.
Yeah, because with the character of the cousin, I tried to represent all the compromisions of a certain field in the Swiss society. That's the financiers, the industry that had all these ties with Germany, that benefited from really from the Nazi government directly. They were connected with all their succursal, all the companies that they had in Germany. They closed their eyes on forced labor, etc., etc. And this guy, the cousin, when he expressed his his worries about who's going to pay the bills, it's so, you know, it's petty. It's but it was really like that, because these guys, till the very end, they didn't want to see reality coming. They just wanted their money. They just wanted to keep on doing business as usual. And the confrontation between them is interesting for that, just to show how deep they were compromised with the Nazi regime.
Right. And then, you know, one of the last scenes that I also found fascinating was, you know, after that gala, which he was disinvited from, you know, meeting with the American representative, and you know, him thinking that he had, you know, that briefcase full of information that the Americans would want. And then in the end, you know, the American not only ignoring him, but sort of offering him a cigar as a way of saying, you know, let's sort of move on and deal with the future, and that is with you know, the former Soviet Union and their influence. So talk about that scene a little as well.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to I took a shortcut there, of course, because I mean the US and the Allied forces were much more putting much more pressure on Switzerland till 1946. Switzerland was sanctioned. The country was really considered collaborating with Germany. That was made very clear. But it's a movie, so I have an hour and a half to stress things, and that's why I took this shortcut. This shortcut means how the Cold War saved Switzerland's ass in a way, because pragmatism just won the chronology of events. It could have been much worse, but that scene with the American ambassador is showing that they needed Switzerland for something else. The historic phase was different, and he had to move on. And when he says, "We know everything we need to know," that's certain, because they knew a lot, and they had to they had to move on. They had to adapt to the new world.
Tell me about the relationship between the daughter's boyfriend and the ambassador. I thought that's where you used a lot of filming techniques with the, you know, with the nightmares that he was having. I thought you did that really well. That bathtub scene, for example, you know, where he sees that. And the other piece that I really liked was the, you know, the toy guillotine that he found on the ground, and how that really messed his mind up from with all of it. The guilt aspect of was there a guilt aspect that he hadn't done enough for this young man that wanted to assassinate Hitler?
Well, for me, it was interesting to have one specific event that the ambassador was connected with, and not all the dossier that you could open about collaboration between Switzerland and Germany. This is his own personal story, his own personal guilt, in a way. The connection with Maurice Bavaud, that young man who tried to assassinate Hitler just before the Kristallnacht. And he's like haunted with this trauma. I like to say that, you know, in a war movie, you always have soldiers that come back from the battlefield with PTSD, etc., etc. But diplomacy is a battlefield also. It's also a battlefield, and my character comes back with a post-traumatic stress disorder, in a way. And to illustrate that, I wanted to have this specific story of Maurice Bavaud connected with him, because in reality, this rendezvous manqué, this missed rendezvous between the two, is real, and the real ambassador just went even further than that. He publicly denounced the Maurice Bavaud. He didn't help him at all. He even defended that the authorities help him in any way. And when he comes back in the movie, it's really like he's followed by this ghost coming to haunt him. So the young man, the character that plays the daughter's boyfriend, is like a Jiminy Cricket in a bit. He's like a conscious who's coming to question him about what he did and how he feels about himself and what he could have done differently. That's like the interrogation of the Swiss of tomorrow, the Switzerland of tomorrow. That's what I tried to say before about the three different generations. He's the kid, but he's very smart and he's very questioning and he wants answers. He wants the character to be accountable for his actions.
Did the boyfriend have a real relationship with the daughter, or was it more because he wanted to get to the father?
This answer I leave to the audience. I think it's interesting to question, to have this question in mind. But I think their relation has a certain solidity, has a certain truth to it. It's not just an opportunist who's using. He's not Machiavelli. He has an agenda, but as often, maybe what he decided to do got mixed with a real relation.
Yeah, I could see that, and I'm sure those that watch the film that are watching this now, you know, have their own interpretation. But I just thought the creative way that you had, you know, that character following the ambassador around, really, you know, and the ambassador himself. How did you find him, the actor that played that role? Is he a famous Swiss actor or French actor? Where's he from?
Michael is from Bern, actually. He's from Switzerland. And I met him through casting process a long time before we started shooting, actually 5 years before we did the film. As I told you, it was very hard to build that production. And Michael just struck me because he had this natural, can you say allure? You know, this kind of silhouette. Physically was very kind of impressive. He has charisma. He has this seriousness. He also has a good range in acting. He can go from one state to another. He masters different languages, the national ones, because he uses 4 languages in the film: Swiss, German, French, and English. And that's, I mean, of course, you can work with actors. You can do films in any language when they are really concentrated. But he was naturally at ease with the languages. That was important for me. And yeah, it was very obvious. It's not very complicated, but I really liked him. I believed that he was really able to be that character.
Yeah, I thought he was terrific. Just a few more questions, Laurent. Tell me, what's next for you?
But you you know, when you're an independent filmmaker, you always have many pans on the fire. You know, you have to cook many different dishes. So I'm currently waiting to get some answers for financing the next one and writing other screenplays.
Wonderful. And now the title, A Forgotten Man. What were some other ideas for titles, and are you happy? Obviously, you are, because that's the title you gave, but explain the title if you could, and what were some of the other ideas you had for the film's title before you got to A Forgotten Man?
Sorry. The process of finding a title is always very, very peculiar and long. I had millions of different titles, but this one, what I liked about this one is the kind of the double meaning of it, because you have a man, both characters of Maurice Bavo, the young man who tried to assassinate Hitler, and the ambassador are, at least in Switzerland and of course in the rest of the world, completely forgotten men. And that was interesting also, to have this ambiguity in which one is the one we have to forget. Is there one we have to forget, or one we shouldn't be forgetting? You know, so that was one of the reasons that we kept the title, for this ambiguity. Apart from the fact that I like the sound of the title.
For sure, for sure. Laurent, did you the feedback in Switzerland? How has it been? The reviews? And it'll be interesting, because I was reading that it's being released in different areas and different festivals, including ours here in Miami. So what's the feedback been in Switzerland?
In Switzerland, the reception was very good. And always we had debates. We had sometimes we had conflictive reactions again, in terms of generations. That was very interesting to see that the perception of these events, this piece of history, is still very how do you say, incendiary. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous period, and you have people who react very strongly about, yeah, you know, what could he have done differently, blah 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 blah. And even if we are like almost 80 years after the end of the Second World War, you have people who wants to stick with fairy tales and official versions of how it was very complicated to be in the middle of the European conflict, and we did what we could. And then you have people who just did their homework and accepted the truth of all the compromises and things that were done, that were very indignant. But the reception in general was very strong and never indifferent, which is one of the objectives that we had with Dan, the producer, at the very beginning when we started to make the movie. We wanted that to be generating debates between people in the audience.
Wonderful. Laurent, I want to really thank you so much. This is, again, Laurent Nègre from the movie A Forgotten Man. It's wonderful that you can join us from outside of Geneva. Once again, I want to thank all of our members, sponsors, community partners, volunteers, and all of you film lovers for participating in the Miami Jewish Film Festival. Laurent, thank you for being with us. And
thank you very much.
I wish you all the very best.